I don't want my legs to be there.
Welcome, Earthlings, to Into the Akashic, a podcast hosted by Rachel Flores. You are now entering a portal, a doorway to ancient mysteries, spiritual topics, and information from the beyond. Thank you for listening, and we'll welcome you on this spiritual awakening journey.
Hey guys, thank you for tuning in. It's going to be an exciting podcast. I got Mandy here with me. So thank you for listening. I know it's a little late, but it's all good. My girl, she moved to Hawaii, so we're on different time frames. But yeah, so this is Mandy. She's been a friend of mine for a minute. Conscious creator, artist, songwriter, tattoo artist. She does so many things, and there's nothing she can't do. She's been in this game for a while, and she's got quite the story and just has been a big inspiration to me personally. I've kind of witnessed and sat back and seen some of her spiritual journey, her inner work that she's done, and yeah, just a great inspiration to the world, and I love what she's doing. So I'll let her kind of go into who she is, and hi, Mandy. Here she is.
Hello, darling soul. I adore you, and thank you for that intro.
Yes.
My goodness. Yes, hi. My name's Mandy Tardif, and I am all those things. I love art, always have. So I am a painter, a prolific painter. I love to paint murals. In fact, right behind me is a mural that I painted on my wall, a guitar that I painted, a painting over, like there's just paintings everywhere.
Yeah.
And I also am, right now I'm like in the process of becoming like a tattoo artist, but I've been tattooing my body for a little while. And yeah, and a singer, songwriter, and all those things. Really fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, I moved to Hawaii about, what is it now, like 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah.
From California. I was living in California, Northern California by the Bay Area. I was living there for the past, I think, 7 or 8 years. I'm originally from the East Coast.
Okay.
I was actually born in Alaska. I've been all over the place. So I was born in Alaska.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's my dad's in the Army, but apparently we only lived there for I only lived there for 12 days. And then we moved back to my parents' hometown in New Hampshire. So that's where I spent like the first part of my life until I was about 24, was in New Hampshire. And then on a whim, leap of faith, I just picked up and I just went to California. And I lived in California for, gosh, I think it was like another 20 something years.
Okay.
And then the same thing, I just like picked up and just like moved myself to Hawaii about 3 or 4 months ago. So I currently live now in Honolulu.
Awesome.
And it's beautiful. It's on the island of Oahu, if people didn't know that. I see rainbows every day, almost every day. It's a dream come true. Honestly, I really didn't even know, like, I always dreamt of living in a tropical place.
Yeah.
But there was like a part of me that like kind of didn't think it would ever happen.
Yeah.
And then it was like, but wait a second, why can't it happen?
Yeah.
And so I just picked up and moved here, and it's just been one of the best decisions I've ever made, because here I am, only 3-4 short months in, and I already had a number of people that came out to eat with me on my birthday. Like, one of the girls was like, how do you already have this many friends? You've only been here for a few months. So yeah, a lover of people, and
Yes.
I've been through a lot in my life, and here I am now, just having had a birthday 2 days ago.
Oh, cool.
Just
Happy
turned
belated.
40,
I didn't know that. I don't know
45.
why.
That's okay. That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
Well, happy belated. That's so cool. And you look
Thank you.
amazing and you feel like, I'm sure you feel good about everything. And yeah, that's awesome. I don't know if I could pick up and move somewhere, but I always have wanted to. I think having a kid, I think
Yeah.
about more like stability, but honestly, like why can't you? Even with kids, I think there's people that like make homes out of buses and move their family all over. And so, yeah, I always wanted to do that. Maybe I'll come down and visit or something sometime, but
Yes, please. And I would like to add to that, like, yeah, I am not married. I never have been. I don't have children. I don't have pets. I didn't have a typical 9 to 5 job. I have been like an entrepreneur, a conscious creator, like you said,
yeah.
for a number of years.
Yeah.
And so what that means is I wake up and it's kind of like I create my life every day.
Yeah.
And so that gives me it gave me the flexibility to just, literally just pick up, and had 6 suitcases, and that's what I moved here with.
Yeah.
And I did ship my car. But,
okay, cool. You did. Was that okay? Was it expensive or anything shipping that?
It really, I mean, you could say it was. To me, it was 100% worth it.
Yeah.
Because when I was thinking about myself in a brand new place without the means to get around, it just
absolutely.
felt like constricting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so it cost $1,500 to ship your car. Well, what if by having a car, you can quickly make that money
absolutely
faster by having the ability to get around, rather than like, I could walk or I could bike, but having a car just makes it easier. And the funny thing is when I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm going to ship my car and I'm just going to trust the money has come. Well, just a few short days after that, some gentleman saw my Facebook profile, saw that I had painted a mural on someone's fence, and asked me if I would paint a mural on his fence outside. And that paid for the whole car and my first month's rent. And I was like,
so
there you go.
Your life has been a continued, like, trusting faith that, like, you're good. God has always had you, like, you're provided for. And it's really cool how that happens. Like, and some of the times when I'm just like, ooh, I'm getting a little slim on money, finances, and then boom, something will come through and someone will buy something, or a sale, or someone will commission something. And it's been like that for the last year of my life, of finally letting go of the 9 to 5 job. It wasn't serving me. I felt very trapped, and I was around people having conversations that I just did not want to partake in. I felt very like stifled. I was working in the field, like with trauma, with children, and I love the children, but it was that, I knew in my heart that I was meant for so much more. And I was like, I still can work with children somewhere down the road if that's what Spirit calls me to do. But I knew that I was meant to step out, trust faith, trust God, that I was going to be okay, and that I was, to stay consistent, but, to work towards that dream life and freedom that I've always wished to have. And that's, in a job where I'm passionate, doing what I love, making art, connecting with people, and and seeing people restored and healed. I mean, that's like my vision and mission, is to see humanity healed and restored. And as I've went through my journey with relationships and being a mother and finding myself and coming out of the church, and we're going to get into that too, but it's like, I finally feel like I'm hitting a spot where I'm like, wow, this is really possible, and everyone can do something along the lines of this if they choose to. It's okay if you want to work, cool, but if you really do want to get going with something where you're an entrepreneur and you're doing something you love, it is very, very possible.
100%. Love it. And you know what? Kudos to you for doing it. And you have a child, like,
yeah,
I can't imagine, like, there is that comfort in having the stability and just knowing that, you have something there. And when it's just me, like I could live in my car, I guess. But anyway, kudos to you. And I love everything that you just said. It's Beautiful.
Yes. So I would love to get into a little bit, like your backstory with, because I know both of us, were, I don't know if you were like always Christian or not. I can't remember if you told me that, but I know that we kind of come from the more religious backgrounds. We have relationship with God's source, and we've talked on the phone a little bit about like our past with being liberated from those restraints and boxes that society has kind of programmed people to be in, especially, the church, religion, all of that. And even some of the new age can be a bit like that as well. I've found coming out of the church, the love and light movement, this is the way, you're not enlightened if you don't think like, so I've found that there's like these programs and boxes everywhere you go in spirituality. And so you really have to stay true to yourself and be authentic and know who you are in God, in God's source, in Christ. And for me, I have quite the story coming out of the church. So share a little bit about that, like how that all went down with you. And I know you've told me about like your painting series of the liberation or however that goes. Share some of that.
Okay, please feel free to stop me or interject at any moment if you want to ask a question or redirect me, because I could go off into 100 tangents.
It's all good, girl. As long as you got time, we got time.
For hours.
That's okay. Go ahead.
So okay, I'll try to be as concise as I can.
Yeah.
I grew up Roman Catholic.
Okay.
So we went to Mass every Sunday as a family. And I remember as a child, it was kind of sterile. Yeah. It just like hymns and not a lot of life and people raising their hands. And that wasn't the type of church that I went to. I was actually kind of afraid of the pastor. He just had this long robe on and he was always sweating and like, it was just interesting. So I did all my sacraments, first communion, confirmation, but we didn't ironically really talk much about God at home. It's like not like we prayed at dinner time. I don't ever remember opening up a Bible really. I do remember one of my favorite television shows or movies was the 10 Commandments.
Oh my God, yeah.
That's like my favorite, like when he parted the Red Sea. So then once I was old enough in, let's say on my way to college, I remember making like a conscious decision of like, I don't want to go to church anymore. Like, I don't like this. I don't like the way it felt, because the way I kind of, I guess, interpreted what I was hearing in church or God was that God was just this like tyrant that was always gonna like, you're just gonna be in trouble all the time if you're not like good and you're gonna go to hell. And it just made me so anxious. So I just didn't really want any of that. Yeah. And so I just was like, I'm not going to go to church, right? I'm not even going to think about it. Yeah. So I went to college and then I started drinking and doing a lot of drugs, and I developed a very severe eating disorder. And then, because those things started taking precedence in my life more and more and more, I did find myself actually coming back to like talking to God because at this point, several years later, I was literally on my knees, like crying and beside myself because I had gotten myself into quite a very dark place. And then what's coming to mind is there's a movie by Mel Gibson called The Passion of the Christ. Yeah. And it's so interesting to me because at the time, I was, heavily into drinking and heavily into an eating disorder. And for some reason, I wanted to go see this movie. I didn't tell a soul. I went by myself. I actually went to a bar, took a few shots, got drunk, drove myself to the movie to go watch Christ get nailed to a cross, loaded. So I remember like sitting there and just crying and crying and crying because something connected for me. Yeah. In that moment, I was like, wait a second, like, what is this story of this person dying for my afflictions, right? There was just, my brain was sort of processing it. I didn't stop drinking at that moment. It took several years for me to get sober. But then eventually on June 6, 2006, I did get sober. which is ironic because it's 666.
Yeah.
I ended up in a 12-step program. So in that program, they talk a lot about higher power. You can create your own higher power. But I personally, at that time, I fell so far into, no, I'm going to say fell so far. I connected to the story of Jesus dying for me.
Yeah.
Because in my brain, it was like, oh my God, I'm sinning meaning like for me at the time, like I'm far away from God. I'm drinking around the clock, and Jesus is going to come in and take all of that off of me.
Yeah.
And he's going to give me a new life.
Yeah.
And for me, how that looked tangibly, right, was, okay, I came to the realization that I was in need of God. So it was like, okay, I'm coming back to God again. So I need you, God, because I can't handle this drinking and this addiction on my own, right? So I'm like, okay, God, I need you. And you're going to take this from me. I don't know how, because I personally at that time, I couldn't figure out how to stop throwing up my food and drinking.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm like, okay, God's going to help me. And then I'm going to have a new life. And so for me, my new life was a sober life, was a life where I was in a 12-step program. I was in a community of people. I was eating a different way because I was actually in a 12-step program for food. So I was weighing my food and eating what they called abstinently, which is no flour and sugar.
Yeah.
And I just like ended up going to church. I really wanted to. I actually really loved the messages. I went to Christian churches.
Yeah.
They were different than my upbringing. These churches had people painting. They had people dancing. They had people like excited to be there. And so it was a much different energy. And what I heard people say is like, the Holy Spirit is here. And I'd be like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah,
so
it is cool.
I would just be like moving in the spirit, right?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, I was moved by it. You know, I really loved it. I loved other people just like praising God and loving God. There was still something though that just kind of always felt a little off, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I get like, so what happened, you know, I'm in the 12-step program for many years. I'm following, I guess you could say I'm following some like rules, you know, and I'm in the church going, you know, to church on Sundays and then eventually what happened is in 2018, so to reference what you were talking about is the series of paintings that I did.
Yeah.
In 2018. So it was April.
Okay.
And it's not like I was like, I'm gonna have a divine liberation.
Yeah.
It was a peculiar thing that was happening internally that I had absolutely no words for.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to my friends, like, I don't know what the hell is going on with me, but I feel like I'm going through some process. Like, like I'm like in a
you were like shifting into
totally shifting, right? And like I didn't know where I was going, and I didn't have like a person to reference or a book that was telling me what was happening, right? I just knew that something was shifting internally, and it felt like it had to do with me being a woman and me as a woman, like coming into being a woman. And of course now I have way more words for this because it's, you know, hindsight's 2020, so I can articulate it much better. At the time, all I said was, I'm a guy. So I started painting at that time on canvas, and I started painting women in these kind of like positions where they're just like flowy and open. And one of the paintings, the woman actually, you can kind of see the tops of her breasts. And I remember thinking everyone in church is going to think that I've gone to the devil, you know, because the other thing that was happening for me was I was being exposed and to things that I had previously thought were of the devil. Yeah. Like tarot cards, astrology, human design, yoga, you know, kundalini, like all these kind of terms
things that I don't even think they understand, you know, like to this day, they're like, it's more judgment instead of really understanding the background with all of that, you know, and, how women were the oracles at one point in time. Like we were the priestesses, and we were the ones that were divinely connected to God because of our womb space. And I think the early church knew that. They knew our power. And so, you know, you even see it in the Bible with the story of Eve, you know, oh, because of her we fell, and all these different things in humanity, you know, the burning and the witch trials, the, you know, the suppression of the divine feminine. And so, yeah, I think that like something ancient, it sounds in you, was like awakening, and you're like, I need to be me. I need to, you know, figure out what this is that's wanting to come out of me. So
absolutely,
that's awesome. I love that. And it does really sound like the divine feminine, the mother, was coming forth, the goddess, the priestess, and she's like, you know, and that's how I felt too. Like a lot in the church was, oh, are they going to judge me? Oh, am I doing something wrong? It was like I was always looking over my shoulder, wondering if I was going to make them more happy than just walking in who I was in Christ and being free. And knowing that God doesn't really care about those things. Like, he loves us. He loves our expression. He loves who we are. And, you know, he really doesn't care too much about some of those things the church, like, deems so evil and, oh, my God. And, yeah, I think they just don't really know a lot about it. So they're not really educated. And so they're coming from, like, a place of distortion or judgment.
Fear.
Yeah, fear.
Fear the unknown.
Yeah. Absolutely. So you went on with this series. Did anyone ever say anything? Did the church ever?
You know, I've had messages. There have been. There've been a number of messages that have been slipped into my DM. You know, and at first they would kind of like, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm going to hell. I painted a woman. You know, and then I would think, you know, it would be a cool opportunity for me to think like, but wait a second, what are my intentions, Mandy? Like, really be honest with yourself. Like, what are my intentions with this? And when I like looked within, and I knew without a shadow of a doubt that my intentions were pure. Yeah. And my intentions were just like, I'm on a journey and I don't know what's going on, but this feels open. I feel more loving. I feel more authentic. And when I got that, I was like, the subject matter doesn't matter. Right. It doesn't. It's what's inside. Yeah. And for me, painting a woman, if I look back in history, there's a lot of people sculpting women and men naked and painting because, you know, the human body is beautiful. Right. So yeah, there were a few messages. I even still get them to this day. So I'll tilt my camera here. So I painted this Buddha. Oh, of course you got one over there. I got a Buddha, and I just love learning about the Buddha because when I was coming to Honolulu, I actually had the opportunity to live in a meditation center. It's where I live right now. I'm telling you, it is divine how I ended up living here. It's crazy. Wow. And there were people that were very concerned, and I'm talking like very concerned, and they thought that I was going to end up going to the devil because I'm moving into a Buddhist meditation center. And I just felt the like fear of like, this fear that's like, oh my God, why are you not moving into, you know, a Christ-centered whatever? And it's like, it's just interesting to me because as I learn about, you know, Buddha and Buddha's teachings, I mean, they're beautiful. Do I look at to Buddha as like, oh my God, I worship Buddha all day long? No. Right. But I like that I'm more open-minded today to take a little piece of astrology and learn about it, and like a little piece of witchcraft, right? Buddha and Christ and like everything, and I feel like I'm more relatable as a human. I feel like I'm more compassionate. So anyway, I love the journey that I've been on, and I feel like I have been led. It's not like I'm the type of person who was just kind of like cozy and like, you know, doing the deal and I'm not really like, how do I want to say this? Like, it's not like I was like, I'm going to go do something else and I'm going to be a rebel and I'm going to leave this and I'm going to prove them wrong. That's not my personality. Yeah. So for me, it felt like there was this, like you said, I love how you articulated it, like this ancient mother coming in and saying, dear one, take my hand and I'm going to lead you even more into more, just freedom and love. And you don't have to fear anything, because what if everything is permissible and everything is holy, and it's just learning about like being conscious, being intentional, being aware, being in the present moment, like, just circling back to things that at once maybe I was not aware of its power. And, I used marijuana in a way that was hurtful to myself.
Yeah.
Maybe we can, as a society, I mean, I know we can come back to using that as a way that can be more loving to everyone. I personally don't like the way that marijuana feels.
Yeah.
But I'm open to, who knows, in 5 years from now, I could be the spokesperson for like, smoking a little bit of marijuana every day. Because who's to say? So
yeah, I actually, when I had all this happen as well, like this awakening, I guess you could call it, it was actually the beginning of 2020. And right at the end of 2019, I really started questioning things in the Bible even. And I started going to my pastor about them, and I'm like, hey, but this, and I feel like God is really telling me something different. Like, he's telling me this is not right. This is, like the circumcision story was a big one for me. Even though they're like, oh, it was a covenant. For me, like, God was showing me, like, crazy things. Like, hey, this is a hijacked by fallen angelics. This was never from me. So I was like being shown all these crazy things, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going crazy. He was showing me galactic wars that took place back then, ancient wars. He was giving me visions of my past life in Egypt, showing me things and how things had been inserted in humanity to suppress them. And even in the Bible, there was things put in, taken out. The Council of Nicaea had distorted and hijacked things in the Bible, and he was like just showing me little by little, like, that wasn't from me. That was never supposed to be in there. That's not of me. That's not what I wanted humanity to go get into. So, like, just certain things. And, I started asking, like, God, I'm like, I don't want to disobey you, but, and I'll always have love for you. I just remember driving and having this, like, ball out session with God, and I'm like, I want to serve you, and I want to serve humanity for the greater good, and I need you to show me where to go next, because I feel like you're telling me I need to go on this journey and discovery, and what I have always thought to be the truth might not be the truth, and you're wanting me to go on this journey. And I just remember having this vision. I was one of the painters in the church, and then they tried to send me off to Bethel to, like, study under, like, a prophetic artist, which actually ended up, like, judging me too. And I didn't really feel safe with her as well. She wasn't who I thought she was. And so I ended up coming home, and I ended up getting this vision of this white owl. And I'll actually show you. It's on the wall right there. So I had a vision of that white owl, and God was like, you're that white owl, and you're the seer who can see into the darkest things. You can see into the night. You're gonna help people awaken. You're gonna snatch them out of the darkness, and you're gonna bring them to the truth. And he was like, I'm gonna give you a key to the kingdom of heaven, and you're gonna know things. And yes, it's going to be a hard journey for you, but you're going to help the healers awaken. You're going to help the mystics and the misfits. You're going to be the mother of the misfits that are like you. And your journey is not to be stuck in a church somewhere. This was, up until now, maybe it was your journey to, like, learn about Christianity and have a relationship with Christ. And I'm so thankful that I was brought up in that. But he was like, I have a different mission for you, and it really is to be the mother of the misfits and to welcome the different ones, the indigo children, the star seeds, you know, to be that person that connects with all things, all beings, and to discern for yourself what's right and wrong. And if you got me, he's saying, like, you know, if you got me, how can you go wrong? If you know the truth in your heart and who God really is, and you have relationship with God source, you're not going to be led astray. If you're really discerning and having intuition, you do not need a pastor, you do not need people, mankind, to tell you what the truth is, because the truth is within, and God said the kingdom is within. So we have the answers to what we are searching for. It's always been within us. And I come back to that verse, like, to the pure all is pure. And like you said, you're like, you know, I want to be able to go to a Buddhist temple and not be judged and feel like, you know, there's nothing wrong with any of that. So to the pure, all is pure. Like, we are able to do those things and not see evil in those things, because guess what? We walk with the light. So even if there is distortions or some new age hijacking or something going on, okay, yeah, we can discern that's not for us. Maybe I don't feel comfortable in this setting, so, you know, I'm going to hold on to the light in this area, but leave that for whatever, and not have judgment, and be able to kind of walk in the spirit with it all. So hopefully that made sense. I don't know if it did, but it just kind of came out.
All of it makes complete 100% sense. 10 years ago, probably wouldn't have, honestly. 10 years ago, I would have probably just been like thinking that you were some, you know, person that needed to go to church or something.
Yeah, no, I would have too. And I've been there. I've had people jump on my posts and they're like, sis, you know, I don't know where you're going, but, you know, you're getting into this new age stuff. You're getting into this mysticism, occultism. And I'm just like, ugh. And I used to be that person that wanted to save people, and instead of letting them have their own personal journey and walk with God. And then another thing that was big to me was, you know, the fruits of the Spirit. There's a lot of these people in churches that think that they're following God and they're doing all these right things, but they're far from God. They have no fruits of the Spirit. They have no love. They have no, you know, none of that. And so they're walking in this judgment and throwing scripture out at people and really not living their lives at all for themselves or at all. And so they're walking in these, I don't even know what to call it. Like, they think
it's like
there's
an outward thing. It's
yeah,
like an outward thing. Because, you know, what's coming to mind is it's not just like the church too.
yeah.
When I say church, like, I'm picturing like an actual like church building where people go and gather on Sundays, and like they have like, you know, the pastor and all of that. But it's also, it can be present in big meditation community and 12-step programs where people are, you know, just, I've been going to meetings for 35 years. Mm-hmm. And, you know, well, guess what? Mandy, I did not take a sip of alcohol for a good 14 something years. And I came and moved to Honolulu, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go get me some wine.
Right.
And I drank, and it was a conscious decision. And so you could say like, oh my God, I'm, you know, I have to like walk into an AA meeting and with my head hung high.
Yeah.
I mean, my head hung low, like, oh God,
right.
I don't have 14 years of sobriety anymore. I took a drink. I'm a piece of shit. I'm
right.
You know, and then like the people, and this isn't for everybody. This is totally not, this is not me stereotyping every single person at all. It's just about inward. Like,
right.
Like, how are you as a person in any setting? We're all not perfect. I'm freaking not perfect at all.
Right.
Like, yeah. Do you have love? Are you just pontificating? Are you just preaching? Are you just
humble?
evangelical?
Are you humble in heart? That's a big one.
Yeah.
Are you humble?
Present? Are you?
Yeah.
So anyway, just wanted to like say like that. That's what I was thinking of. Is I love that you reference that scripture verse of what it says in the Bible somewhere. Like, are you just a clanging cymbal?
Yeah.
Are you just like I know the whole book, and I can just, I can spew out all these great things. But
Right.
at the end of the day, are you actually really, like,
Yeah.
do you really care about that stranger over there that's not even your
Right.
family,
Right.
or somebody that might never give you something in return? But do you actually have compassion because you see that person right there as though they were you?
Right.
Like, you see yourself in every single human being. Like, we are all one. Like, that's why it's super hard to see homeless people for me, because I can't help them all. I can't give them all my money.
Yeah.
But I also, at the same time, it's just like, oh my gosh, like, how can I walk by a person who is
Yeah.
just laying there?
Right. Well, when I first left the church, it was probably about March of 2020. And
Interesting. That's great when COVID happened.
oh, it was crazy. Like, I had
That's
visions of COVID happening before it happened. But that's a whole nother story. But yeah, like, I left the church. I found a couple Christian mystics, which I was like, wow, like, I've never heard of a mystic before, or like, what's that? And then I heard of like the Christian mystics, and I was like, man, they resonate
that seems
more.
like an oxymoron, right?
It
Like,
does.
Christian, how can those two live together?
Right, exactly. And so there was people that had relationship with Christ, but we're talking about psychedelics and tarot and oracles and the esoteric and all of that, and the taboo subjects that Christians, I had always wanted to talk about with Christians, but they were like, oh, you can't talk about that, we can't question those, we can't talk about the Anunnaki, we can't, aliens, oh God, better not talk about that. So it was like, I found these people that had these conversations, and I'm like, wow, there's a whole other world out there. But I did get kind of immersed in the new age a little bit when I first came out of the church, and I think I needed to see the truth for what it was. And I met a lot of people like that in the new age, kind of in the spiritual community, that were very high and mighty, like almost like the religious zealots again. It was like the church all over again, but it was just a different spin. And they were, you're not enlightened, you're not going to ascend to 5D if you don't da 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 da, and you can't have
I want to be in 5D. I want to be right here.
I know. I'm like, I want to, we have work to do here. We have to anchor heaven on earth here. We have a lot of work to do now. I'm not trying to, it was another, kind of like the Christians. They're going to check out because Christ is going to come back. It was that all over again with the ascension. We're going to ascend and we're going to get out of here. And it's like, no, God has a mission and work for all of us to do right here on earth now. And you don't get to check out. We got a lot of work. And so, yeah, there was a lot of people like, yeah, I don't even pray anymore, and I don't even have to do this. And I'm like, good for you, guru. Like, where's the humbleness in your heart? And I just saw a lot in the spiritual community. It was a lot like the church all over again. And so, kind of been speaking out a little bit on that. But, I've kind of ruffled some feathers with some of the topics as well, or things.
Yeah, I was going to say, how's that been going?
That's one of my callings, is to kind of, yeah. I mean, I'm a forerunner and an awakener, so I know that I'm probably always going to be the type of person that ruffles feathers, but I've recently had a sense of peace about things, of not feeling so much like I have to battle. Because I think in a past life I was some type of warrior for truth, and I fought for the good cause, and I've always had that in my being where I feel like I want to fight for the good of humanity, and I'm this like fierce warrior. And so I feel like, and then my daughter being vaccine injured, I feel like I've always been that person to want to speak the truth on the hard subjects that other people don't do, because we do need people like that too. We do need awakeners like that too. So there are people that are called to that kind of stuff. But I recently, the last couple months, I've just had this shift in me to really step back a little bit and anchor more peace and clarity in my own mind. And not that I didn't have it, be doing all that. I love being able to share whatever and not give a fuck, but to not be so intense and in people's face about it. And I guess we all go through shifts, but yeah, I feel like a more sense of peace these last couple months to kind of step back a little bit.
I think all those seasons are so good, right? Like what's coming to mind is like when you said that you like left a church setting like right around March 2020, and then you found yourself getting a little bit into like the new age, but then sort of like, I dipped my toe in there, or both toes, and then like I don't know about that, and you kind of find like where you're gonna fit better, like over here, but at least you have that experience, you know. It's like everything that we go through in life is so necessary, and I'm so glad that I've been in all these different pockets of, I mean, I've lived with Mormons, I live in a Buddhist temple. Wow. I was previously dating a meth addict. I was like, Christianity, and being heavily into addiction and alcohol, and it's just wonderful to have all those experiences. And then I think oftentimes we go from like one extreme and then to the other, and then you have more of like a mindful, conscious like awareness of when you're making decisions, because you're taking both. You're not just blindly like making decisions. You're just like, okay, I've been there. Yeah. Like what kind of feels like the North Star, like that
I honestly think it's the human vessel that wants to it's God's source in an expression of all of us, and it's wanting to experience all those things. Yeah. And we really are meant to. So nothing is ever good or bad. I think it was all just how it was supposed to be in each of our lives, and the human vessel really just wants to experience all of that. It was meant to experience all of that, because humanity is wanting to shift, it's wanting to heal, and I think that source is wanting it to heal as well, and it's experiencing all, so that it can up level and awaken and heal more and grow. And so I think that's awesome. That's so awesome. All of our experiences, humanity as a whole, like there's some crazy stories out there I hear, and I'm just like, wow, amazing. Yeah.
I too, like you, really, one of the things that I think burns in my heart the most is just to see people heal.
Yeah.
To awaken into like freedom from bondage, freedom from addiction, right? Just to like walk through like your biggest fears, to just see that like it's really just a big boogeyman on the other side.
Yeah.
Most of the things that we're like super afraid of, like here's an example, like I went to a nude beach, and it's like, oh my God, I'm at a nude beach,
Right.
And like it's really one of the most, it's not like, okay, so some people would be like, oh my God, it must be just like a big orgy there, and everybody's, just like whatever, and all these like people and debauchery, and like, no, it's a bunch of like beautiful older couples that like that I could see like they're holding hands walking down the beach at sunset.
Aww.
And they're just peaceful and content, and their little butts are like sagging and they're just so sweet, and they get to be so free in this gorgeous setting of Hawaii at this beautiful beach with the water and the little crabs, and it's like that is beautiful. And I'm so grateful that I don't have that like way about me that I used to be like like afraid of a lot of things. I didn't trust myself. That's what it was. There was so much distrust of my own self, not trusting my own feelings, not trusting the answer, not trusting that I could like all these things, right? And so like now I know that wherever I go, I can trust that that God's there.
Yeah.
Everywhere I go, right?
Absolutely.
That my intuition is always there, that I will be the best parent to myself as possible all the time. And I can take myself to places, and like to reference the nude beach that I went to the other day, a gentleman came up to me and he was very kind of aggressive, meaning his energy was really aggressive, and you could tell he was there to get it on and whatever.
Okay.
I don't judge him. All good on you, dude. If you're looking to come down here because you want to like get on with somebody, whatever, that's where he's at. I don't care. But like, I know for myself that I now know how to say, like, I'm not going to like yell at him or judge him. Right. Or start praying for him. Or
right.
Like, I'm just going to be like, yo, bro, I ain't your girl.
Right.
But have a great day.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was an interesting tangent, but
that's crazy. I remember the first time I saw a naked couple. It was at Electric Forest in Rothbury in 2008.
Electric Forest?
Yeah.
Where is this?
So this is in Rothbury, Michigan, like it's like upper Michigan. I'm like lower Michigan, down by Ohio. And yeah, it's called Electric Forest, and they literally look it up after we get off here. It's called it was called Rothbury Festival when I went, and that was back when I was when I first had my daughter. I was probably like 21, 22, and that was in 2008, and it was like more hippier, kind of like Dave Matthews Band, Sublime, bands like that. Now it's more of like the bass head type of, and it's a lot of drugs, and it kind of depressed me going again recently. We went in 2018, and yeah, it just wasn't the same vibe. It was very like I could sense and feel parasites really there. Like it was scary. Actually, I felt like a very dark vibe. And I kind of said a few things on a couple online sources, and people were like, oh, you were just at it. And I'm like, no, there was some stuff going on there that was not good at all. And so, yeah, just people walking in your tents asking if you want to buy ketamine and like just weird shit going on. But back in the day, it was so awesome. They decorated the whole forest, and it was like all these different lights and light shows, and like there would be different pavilions set up in this huge forest. So there was like one band going on here and another one going on over here, and like it was just so cool. You'd had to like walk to get to the next one, and so there was like different bands. I got to see Spangle, I got to see Bass Nectar, if you've ever heard of them.
No, it sounds cool.
Yeah, I'll send you some of their music after I get off here. But yeah, you'll have to look it up. It's called Electric Forest. But I went the first year, and there was this old couple, and I just remember being like, that is so cool. Can we all do that? And like
one day we will.
One day I think we will.
One day there's going to be a time, and maybe not when I'm alive, but where we can just all be free and trust each other, trust ourselves, right? And just be like, just like so free. Like we all can do things, but we all have this like inner conscience. It's like, I don't need a rule to tell me to like not steal. I don't need a rule or a law to tell me to not speed or to not, do all these things. I don't need a law. I don't need an outside source to tell me and put these buffers on me or these things on me when I know, and my own inner conscience, my own, inner truth to, be loving because it's who I really am. I'm having this like thought right now for whatever reason that I like want to share, because it's like and I don't think that we're saying this, but it's not like we're not like screw church and
whatever. Nothing like that.
It's
everyone.
not that at all, right? It's like and like I was out of 12-step program for a long time. Yeah. And there was a part of me that was like, 12-step programs, but it's really nice to have had those experiences and to like, so my point is, this is what I wanted to share is I remember specifically this one day was back in around 2018 when I was in church and I was looking around and it was dark. There were no windows, and they're playing, the typical 3 songs in a row, like the fast one, the slow one, whatever. And not everyone, but people are like raising their hands. And I remember like kind of raising my hands too, but just kind of being like, do I actually really want to be doing this right now? Like, do I want to raise my hands, or is it just because I feel like people are going to wonder why I'm not raising my hands? Or like, is this really truly like what I want to do? Do I really want to be singing this song right now? Yeah. Do I really actually want to be saying these words out of my mouth, or am I just saying them because that person over there is saying them? Right. And so I remember just feeling this, like, I don't want to. In fact, I actually don't even want to be here. I want to be outside painting. And then there was this realization of like, shit, what does that mean? Does that mean that I'm falling away from God, that I don't even want to be in church? You only come to church one day a week.
Right.
So I was almost having a panic attack, because I was like, but if I stay true to myself, that means that in the middle of this church service where all these people are going to see me, I'm going to get up and leave, and people are going to talk about me. But I didn't want to be disruptive, because I'm not that type of person. I don't want to like be disrespectful. So at an appropriate time, I did. I like kind of discreetly left. My heart's pounding out of my chest, because I'm like, oh my God. I think I'm just following my authenticity. I feel like I'm following God here.
Right.
But it's kind of like not in alignment, because following God is staying here in church with my hands raised, you know?
Yeah.
And so I remember going into my car, and all of a sudden I'm out in the sunshine and I can hear the birds. And I drove myself to a park and I started painting, because that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And what happened is all these people kept coming up to me and asking me about my painting. And within a couple hours, I had a slew of girls sitting on a blanket in the park, and we were all just chatting, just talking about life. And I was like, this
is church.
Church.
Yes.
This is what I want. I don't want, I didn't ask a single person on my blanket, what do you believe? Do you believe in God? Let's talk about a spirit. Let's talk about this scripture. I didn't have an agenda.
Right.
I wasn't like trying to evangelize any of them. It was like, let's just hang out.
Yeah.
Just like literally, like just be freaking human.
Aww.
I don't have to try to be in a self-help group. I don't have to be, are you working on yourself? Are you working? Let's meditate. You know, I was literally just enjoying the sunshine. And that was and that's what I just wanted to like bring that up to say, it's not because I was like, screw church sucks, or anything like, or that I won't even go back to a church setting. It's not that. It's for me, I followed this thing that I was afraid to follow, because I don't want to not belong. I don't want to lose friendships. I don't want to not be following God. I mean, really, you know, but I dared to follow my heart, and I've been doing that ever since. And I honestly feel closer, you know, to God and myself and
humanity
and all that. And humanity, totally. And I don't have to go to a certain building or worship this or worship that. I can just have normal conversations with normal people. And the interesting thing is I tend to have spiritual conversations predominantly anyway. So, you know?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, like I've told people in the church, I'm like, church is all around us. The kingdom of heaven is within you. I've been saying that from the get-go. The kingdom of heaven is within. That is what Jesus taught. And Jesus wasn't in some, you know, boxed up place. And this isn't nothing against the church. I love the church as well. And I might even go back at some point in time in my life too. But that's what happened with me. I just felt this really inner pull to just trust myself and to be free and to, you know, connect with humanity more instead of finding fault or judgment or, oh my God, I got to pray for them because they're lost and
not
like
saved and they don't have the Holy Spirit.
That
like,
stuff to me seems so heavy and so like you're worried all the time about someone. And that's how I was in the church. I'm worried about if I clicked with these women, and I'm worried about if they accept me. And, you know, some of them had something to say about this and that. And I'm just like, dude, I can't handle any of that. I just want to be free. I want to paint. I want to do what I want to do, connect with people wherever. You know, if he's a Buddhist, cool, let's have a conversation. So, yeah, I mean, like you said, you're just following your heart. And I think that's where humanity kind of got off at some point in time in the past, where they just started, you know, making these deities higher than them. You know, first off, we should be listening to God's source, but also our higher self. But I think humanity, like, started putting these boxes around things and, hey, you got to do it this way, and if you don't do it this way, you're not awakened or enlightened, or you don't love God, or God can't love you, and then this hell concept came up, like, to control the people even more. And we could get into all that, but I just think that humanity has for so long been suppressed by different beliefs, different things that have been holding us back. And if only we would listen to our higher selves and trust our hearts and trust our own inner compass, I think our journey would be so much more beautiful and freeing, and humanity probably could be liberated from a lot of the stuff that's kind of restrained us, you know?
I feel like a lot of people are, right? Like with COVID, I know for me, the year 2020 was like, it was awesome. I traveled more in 2020 than I ever have. I spent every day with people. Like it was, I did more art than I ever have, because I was like, how do I want to say this? Say for instance, I was working a 9 to 5. There's nothing wrong with working a 9 to 5 at all. But I had left the 9 to 5 world in 2010. So I had 10 years of, just like being a conscious creator and, just kind of like being like, I do art for a living and it's always changing. And so when 2020 hit and stores are closed and people are losing jobs, I was just like, well, I'm already prepared for this, But what's my point? I think I had some sort of a point and I don't remember my point. This is what happens when you turn 45. You forget.
It's okay. I forget all the time and I'm only 32 and I feel like I'm like, oh my God.
I remember. I believe that we were all created like as creators, right? Like carpenters or videographers or artists, right?
Yeah.
And that we could all be our own little, thing, right? Yeah. You got your thing. I've got like my thing. And somehow when everybody's in their highest calling thing,
yes.
like shoemaker or tree person, gardener, whatever, that we're in complete harmony with everyone. We're all doing what we were created to do 100%. We all love what we're doing.
Yeah.
Every single one of us. And it all works in harmony because you're doing this and I'm doing that and you're doing this and I'm doing that. And all those pieces are necessary for us all to be working together.
Yeah.
We all feel free. We all love what we're doing. And I believe that as, things start to shift and move, more and more people are discovering like, oh my God, I love working from home. I love having my own schedule. What would it look like if I actually did my own thing? Right. And like all the stuff that everyone's been doing can help in that. Right. So like your 9 to 5 job probably helped you in some way put together what you're doing right now. Utilizing the skills that you were using helped you to, go over and spill over into what you're doing right now as waitressing and bartending and meeting people, and all that has helped, in my endeavors and going to school for graphic design. And it's exciting. It's an exciting time in this world, and it's really cool to be alive in this day and age.
It really is. It really is. And I do think humanity is shifting a lot. That's the future. We're going to see more of the entrepreneur type of living, maybe living off the grid, people coming together in community-based living where, they're helping one another. I mean, honestly, I hope to see that because this system is falling and it can't hold up much longer because it's just hasn't worked and it's crumbling. It's, not that that's a good or bad thing, but I think that it's just humanity is shifting and it's moving more towards finally waking up and being like, how we've been doing things for so long is not normal. Waking up, eating, going to work, coming home, like not having a life, never spending time with your kids, feeling so burnt out all the time. That's humanity so much right now is just a burnout. And I'm like, this isn't how God created us to be. We were supposed to be living in abundance, going to places like Hawaii, living and walking amongst the jungle, painting whenever we want to. So I see that in the future, more and more and more of that, people waking up and being like, oh, I'm gonna start my own business, So that's awesome.
Yeah, I will say too, like one of the reasons why I wanted to move here was to live in this climate, tropical, but like the community living piece.
Oh yeah.
Living in a community, I love it. I love it so much.
That's
I
so
mean,
cool.
shared chores, just having people there, or if you don't want to be with them, you go in your space.
Yeah.
But just to have that, I love it. There's probably like 8 people that live where I live here in this building, and
Okay.
it's just been amazing.
That's
amazing.
so cool. Now tell me a little bit about Mandy Coconuts. I seen that. I was like, oh, that's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, so I've had this love-hate relationship with social media. So I've probably deleted about 12 Instagram accounts at this point because I get angry. I know, I get angry and I get mad and I'm like, I don't want to be on internet at all, and I just want to obliterate it all. And then I'm like, I think that's a little extreme. And then I can't like log back into my Instagram account. Like I locked myself out of it.
Yeah.
And so I create like a new Instagram account. So I created a new one here in Hawaii, and I have no idea why Mandy Coconuts was available. I kind of figured it wouldn't be, like somebody in the world would have taken Mandy Coconuts, but it was available. And so it's been my Instagram account now for maybe 2 months that I've been living in Hawaii. So it's a brand new Instagram with my brand new life here. And I love it. And it's actually funny because I'm like beginning to be known as Mandy Coconuts here. So it's like people actually be like, oh, it's Mandy Coconuts. It's so cute.
That's so
it's
funny.
So cute. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So yeah, Mandy Coconuts is who I am on Instagram, and
your website is Mandy Tardif.
MandyTardif.com, which is my name.
Okay, I'll put it in the comments for anyone watching.
Okay.
I'll put all her information in the comments so you can add her if you want, you know, go to her website, support her work. She's got amazing art. She's a painter. She does all kinds of different things. I put her picture as the main thumbnail on the one that I'm going to post on YouTube, but it's this awesome picture of her. She's a body painter also, and it's just so freaking cool. So yeah, support her work. I'll put her stuff in the comments. But I think today's message was just, really just walking in your own truth and liberating yourself from the fears and restraints of anything. It's not even just the church, not even just religion. This wasn't really a bash church thing. It was more of just like our own experience and finding our freedom, doing our own thing, doing things we love, our art, our paintings, our whatever it may be. I know me and Mandy are kind of jack of all trades, but you really can step out and you can do whatever you feel. Really ask yourself. I mean, this is what I did. I came to a point where I was getting ready to start dental hygiene school, and they wanted me to take all these vaccines, and they wanted me to do all this stuff with chemicals, and I just knew that didn't serve my highest good. And I was like, what are you really passionate about, Rachel? And I was like, I've always loved art. I've always loved painting. I want to help people in some sort of way. I didn't know where to start, but YouTube is a great outlet. You can, type in entrepreneurs. If you're an artist and you want to get started, you can type in, how to create a website. You can learn anything you want. You don't even need college. You can learn anything you want to learn. You can read just like all the people are doing in college, retaining information. You can do the same thing, and you can do it. So, and I think that's what we've kind of done in our own lives. And so this was about our own experience and activating our own power and walking in our authenticity. And it's been an awesome podcast. So thank you so much, Mandy, for joining me.
Thank you for this time. It's just been delightful, really.
Yeah.
I love what you're doing. It's really inspiring.
Thank you.
I
want to
really
have
proud
more.
Of you.
Yeah, I want to have more people on that are more artistic, because I just think that our hearts are so big and open, and we're just so unique and funky people, and like we have a lot to share to the world. So yeah, thank you again, Mandy. I'll send you off, and I definitely will tag some of your stuff in the comments, and then you guys can watch the replay later on I'll connect the replay to my Facebook so you guys can watch that. But hopefully you guys all enjoyed. Thank you again, Mandy.
Thank you so much.